2 centuries of silence. For 2 centuries, the Jeffersonian draft sat in a plain folder, filed with mundane correspondence, its ink fading and its edges curling. Generations of researchers walked past the shelf, chasing other stories. Then, in the second decade of the 21st century, the age of digitization reached even the smallest county archives. An intern scanning miscellaneous papers for an online catalog noticed something odd. A preamble beginning from the Free Communities of America. It did not match any known edition. The intern paused, took screenshots, and sent an email to a supervisor. Within days, high-resolution images were on the desks of constitutional scholars across the country. A lost voice from 1787 had been brought back to life by a scanner and a student on summer break. That is how history works now. Not through locked rooms and exclusive privileges, but through open data, crowdsourcing, and 1,000 curious eyes combing through digital stacks. In the 18th century, drafts circulated in secrecy. In the 21st, they go viral. Within weeks, legal blogs were debating the document's authenticity. Journalists wrote think pieces about the Constitution that might have been. Some commentators dismissed it as a rhetorical exercise, a rough note never meant for adoption. Others treated it as a missing Rosetta Stone for American federalism. Conferences sprang up. Law reviews published special issues. Even politicians began to cite it as evidence for their preferred reading of the Constitution. What does that tell us? It tells us that the words of 1787 still matter, not only to historians, but to everyone who lives under laws written in their shadow. It tells us that the debate over local versus national power is not an artifact of the past, but a living question. And it tells us that the boundary between history and the present is porous. We live in a time of renewed archival digging. Millions of pages are being scanned. Algorithms flag anomalies. Volunteers transcribe handwritten notes for online platforms. In the process, hidden drafts, forgotten letters, and suppressed reports resurface. Each discovery changes the way we see the past, and sometimes the way we act in the present. The Jeffersonian draft is a perfect example. It has inspired new scholarship on the founding period. It has also inspired a broader reflection on how fragile our canonical texts really are. If the first words of the Constitution could have been different, what else could have been different? And so this lost preamble becomes more than an academic curiosity. It becomes a touchstone for civic imagination. When you hear "we the people" in a speech or read it in a textbook, you can also hear the ghostly echo of another beginning from the Free Communities of America. 2 openings, 2 visions, 1 nation forever negotiating between them. A sheet of paper folded in 1787 and opened in 2019. 2 worlds touching across time. That is the magic of a lost preamble, but its magic does not end with scholars and scanners. It extends to you. Every archive has boxes no one has opened in decades. Every town museum has letters tucked into folders with bland labels. Every family attic has diaries and receipts that, to the right eyes, could illuminate forgotten corners of history. The Jeffersonian draft was not found by a tenured professor. It was found by a student who paused over a few strange words. History is not static. It is not a stone tablet carved once and for all. It is a living record, constantly revised as new evidence surfaces. The documents you grew up learning about were themselves selections, drafts chosen, others discarded, still others lost entirely. Each rediscovery adds a missing puzzle piece, and the picture of the past changes again. This is why the deleted scenes matter. They remind us that behind every familiar story, there is a shadow story, versions unwritten, ideas unadopted, paths not taken. They also remind us that the distance between official history and hidden history can be as small as a mislabeled box or a forgotten file. When you think about your own community, about the local archives or the stories passed down in your family, consider what might be sitting quietly, waiting to be rediscovered. Maybe it is a letter, maybe a photo, maybe a list of names. Each can become a clue, a spark, a missing piece of a larger narrative. The forgotten preamble shows how powerful such a rediscovery can be. It reshapes debates over federal and state power. It reframes our sense of the founding era. It reveals how fragile even our most sacred texts really are. And it shows that the next big find may not come from a government vault or a famous university, but from an ordinary person's curiosity. As you listen to the next parts of this series, Napoleon's unsent letter, the Tech Titan's lost manifesto, the overlooked warning signs of a pandemic, remember that you, too, are part of this ongoing excavation. The unwritten chapters of history are not sealed. Stay curious. Ask questions. Visit archives. Read footnotes. Share what you find, because the most important deleted scenes may not be hiding in the past at all. They may be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone like you to bring them back into the light. From the lost preamble that could have rewritten America's founding words, to the secret letter that might have changed the fate of an emperor, we have glimpsed how fragile history really is. Drafts vanish, messages are intercepted, and the versions we inherit are only one of many possible pasts. These two stories are just the beginning. Across archives and attics, other deleted scenes are waiting, a tech titan's silenced manifesto, a pandemic's overlooked warning. They are the next chapters in this series, and we will unearth them together in another episode. For now, remember this. Every document, every letter, every forgotten draft holds a potential new history. Stay curious, keep looking, and you may be the one to find the next lost chapter. Chapter 2. The Age of Kings. When we turn the page from the earliest inscriptions into the period of Israel's monarchy, we step into one of the most fascinating chapters in both Scripture and archaeology. The Bible presents a grand portrait of kings who rose, who fell, and who left their marks on their people. From the wisdom of Solomon to the reforms of Hezekiah, these rulers were not only spiritual figures, they were historical actors, shaping the politics, defenses, and identity of their nation. But can archaeology bring their world into clearer focus? The Bible speaks of Solomon's great temple, of fortified cities, and of a golden age of prosperity. Yet here, archaeology is quieter. The earth has yielded little that can be tied directly to Solomon himself. To some, this silence is troubling. To others, it is simply a reminder that history is complex, that evidence can be lost, destroyed, or remain buried beneath centuries of rubble. But where the record grows faint for Solomon, it becomes vivid with Hezekiah. Hezekiah ruled the kingdom of Judah in the late 8th century BCE, a time of immense pressure from the expanding Assyrian Empire. His reign is described in detail within Scripture, and remarkably, archaeology has revealed evidence that aligns closely with his story. One of the most powerful testaments comes from a small piece of clay, a bullae, a seal impression used to secure documents. Unearthed in Jerusalem, this seal bears the name Hezekiah, son of Ahaz, king of Judah. It is a simple object, barely larger than a fingernail, yet it carries with it the authority of a king. The letters carved into the clay are not symbols of myth. They are the handwriting of government, the stamp of administration, the daily business of a real monarch ruling a real people. Other bullae discovered in the city of David show a network of officials, scribes, and administrators at work during this period. Together, they paint a picture of a functioning state taxation, correspondence, and legal matters all carried out under the seal of the king. Through these fragments of clay, we glimpse the machinery of an ancient kingdom, a bureaucracy that undergirded faith and power. Hezekiah is remembered in Scripture for his reforms for cleansing the temple of idols and centralizing worship in Jerusalem. But perhaps his most dramatic act was preparing his city for siege. The Assyrians, under King Sennacherib, were advancing across the region, crushing kingdoms in their path. In anticipation, Hezekiah ordered the construction of a remarkable engineering project, the Siloam Tunnel. Carved through nearly 600 meters of bedrock, this tunnel redirected water from the Gaian Spring into the heart of Jerusalem, ensuring the city's survival in the event of siege. The tunnel exists to this day, winding beneath the modern streets, a silent testament to desperation, ingenuity, and determination. Within it, an inscription was discovered, a record of the workers who dug from both ends and met in the middle, celebrating their triumph. This inscription is not theological. It is not symbolic. It is the voice of laborers carving their achievement into stone, preserved through the centuries. Meanwhile, the Assyrians left their own testimony. In the palace of Sennacherib at Nineveh, reliefs were found depicting the siege of Lachish, one of Judah's fortified cities. The carvings show Assyrian soldiers storming walls, captives led away, and spoils of war carried in procession. These images match the biblical account of Judah under threat, and they stand as chilling records of ancient warfare. While Hezekiah's Jerusalem was spared total destruction, the reliefs prove the ferocity of the campaign and the precariousness of Judah's survival. In these discoveries, the biblical world of kings comes into sharp relief. Clay seals confirm Hezekiah's reign. Tunnels and inscriptions confirm his preparations. Assyrian reliefs confirm the brutality of his enemies. Archaeology does not reconstruct every detail, but it offers anchors in time, points where text and stone converge. Beyond Hezekiah, archaeology has revealed a broader tapestry of the Age of Kings. Fortified gates at cities like Megiddo, Hazor, and Gezer show the military and administrative strength of the kingdom. Storage jars stamped with royal seals suggest organized taxation and trade. Altars and shrines, some consistent with the centralized reforms of Jerusalem and others defying them, show the diversity of worship among the people. Together, these finds reveal that Israel and Judah were not merely minor tribes lost in obscurity, but complex societies engaged with the great powers of their time. Yet archaeology also reminds us of tension. The silence around Solomon's grand kingdom raises questions. Was his empire smaller than later texts suggest? Were his monuments lost to time or yet to be discovered? Scholars debate, and the earth has not yet given its final word. Here, as in so many places, the record is incomplete, reminding us that history is not always neat, nor does it bend to our expectations. Still, the Age of Kings emerges as more than fable. It emerges as a lived reality, shaped by rulers who faced enemies, managed kingdoms, and sought divine favor. The stones and seals show us not just names, but decisions to prepare a city for siege, to stamp authority on documents, to wage war, or as we listen to these voices from the dust, we realize that the kings of Israel and Judah were not distant figures of legend. They were leaders of flesh and blood, men whose reigns left marks in stone and clay. Through them we see how Scripture is rooted in history, and how history itself is preserved in the most fragile of artifacts. This is the age of kings, not mythic shadows, but real monarchs navigating power, faith, and survival. Their world stands before us in seals and tunnels and inscriptions, and it invites us to step closer, to walk the line between text and excavation, and to hear again the echo of rulers whose lives shaped a nation. Chapter 3. Echoes in Stone and Clay. The story of the biblical world does not end with kings and palaces. To understand the fuller scope of Scripture's landscape, we must look at the quieter, subtler traces left behind, relics that whisper of priests, prophets, and the daily lives of ordinary men and women. These artifacts, though fragile, carry immense weight, for they bridge the pages of sacred text with the soil of history. One such artifact is the ossuary attributed to Caiaphas, the high priest who presided during the trial of Jesus. Discovered in a burial cave in Jerusalem in the early 1990s, the ornate limestone bone box bears the name Joseph, son of Caiaphas. To hold this relic in mind is to step directly into the pages of the New Testament, where Caiaphas plays a pivotal role. Scholars debate its authenticity, as with so many finds, but the artistry of its carvings, the context of its burial, and the ear it belongs to all align with the time. If genuine, this ossuary is not just stone, it is the resting place of a man who stood at the crossroads of politics, faith, and fate. Equally striking is the Pilate Inscription. Found in the coastal city of Caesarea Maritima, this stone fragment bears the name Pontius Pilatus, the Roman prefect of Judea. Before its discovery, skeptics questioned whether Pilate existed beyond the gospel narratives. Yet here was a piece of hard evidence, carved into stone, naming him as the governor under the reign of Tiberius. It anchors a gospel figure within the machinery of Roman administration, transforming him from literary character into historical actor. Together, these discoveries remind us that the Bible's cast of characters were not shadows. They were people who lived, governed, and died within the flow of human history. Archaeology allows us to brush against their presence, to see them not only in texts, but in the objects they left behind. But artifacts do more than confirm names. They illuminate lives. In Hezekiah's seal, we saw a king's administration. In the Siloam Tunnel inscription, we heard the pride of laborers. In ossuaries and inscriptions, we see burial customs, the artistry of stonecutters, and the ways communities honored their dead. Each find is a window into how ancient peoples understood power, faith, and mortality. Yet archaeology also challenges us. Not every discovery aligns neatly with Scripture. Some finds complicate our assumptions, suggesting broader diversity in worship practices or revealing political realities that Scripture compresses or omits. Altars discovered outside Jerusalem suggest that despite reforms, worship was far from centralized. Inscriptions in neighboring lands show alliances and conflicts often absent from biblical texts. These contrasts do not weaken the Bible, they enrich it, reminding us that the text is one perspective within a vast and complex world. The power of these artifacts lies not just in what they prove, but in what they reveal. They show us a world of clay tablets and stone inscriptions, of seal impressions pressed by royal officials, of water tunnels carved by desperate hands. They remind us that the biblical story unfolded in real time among real people, in cities that rose and fell, in battles fought and lost, in rituals both solemn and ordinary. When we walk among these relics, whether in museums or at excavation sites, we are not merely looking at broken stone or faded clay. We are listening to echoes of voices long silent, yet carried forward through the dust of centuries. They speak not only to faith, but to the enduring human desire to record, to remember, to be remembered. This is the gift of archaeology. It does not rewrite Scripture, nor does it silence it. Instead, it deepens our understanding, revealing that beneath the sacred texts lie lives as vivid, complex, and fragile as our own. These echoes in stone and clay remind us that history is not abstraction, it is touchable, tangible, and waiting to be unearthed. And so, as we move further, we will see how these discoveries ripple outward beyond kings, priests, and prefects into the larger context of ancient civilizations, shaping our view of the biblical world and the world that surrounded it. Chapter 4. Beyond the Pages. Archaeology does more than verify names and events. It opens the door to an entire civilization, a world beyond the words on parchment. When we examine the relics of the biblical era, we are not only seeking to confirm Scripture, we are also uncovering the lives, the struggles, and the aspirations of ancient peoples who lived within and around the stories we know. Consider the discovery of everyday objects, pottery, storage jars, household tools. These artifacts may seem humble compared to grand inscriptions or royal seals, but they tell a vital story. Pottery fragments reveal trade networks, clay traced to distant regions proves that ancient Israel and Judah were not isolated, but deeply connected to neighboring powers. Storage jars stamped with royal insignias demonstrate systems of taxation and organized economies. Each shard is a silent witness to the rhythms of daily life, how bread was baked, how oil was stored, how goods moved from field to market. Archaeology also reveals the social fabric of the time. Inscriptions outside of Scripture, like the Moabite stone or Mesha stele, describe conflicts from the perspective of Israel's neighbors. These rival voices remind us that history is not told from one angle alone. They give texture to the biblical account, showing how the struggles of kings and kingdoms reverberated across borders. But with every discovery comes new questions. An altar uncovered in the highlands might suggest worship practices different from those prescribed in Jerusalem. Figurines found in households point to the persistence of folk religion, even as official texts condemned idols. These finds remind us that ancient faith was not always uniform, nor perfectly aligned with the central vision presented in sacred Scripture. It was complex, contested, and deeply human. And then there are the great monuments of neighboring civilizations. Assyrian reliefs, Egyptian stelae, Babylonian chronicles all echo the world in which the Bible was written. They depict sieges, deportations, treaties, and tributes, often intersecting with the biblical narrative. The fall of Jerusalem, the exile to Babylon, the return under Persian rule. These events are not only preserved in Scripture, but etched into the records of empires. To see these accounts side by side is to witness history woven together from many threads. This broader context reshapes how we understand the Bible. It is no longer seen in isolation, but as part of a larger human story, one of empires rising and falling, of trade and migration, of faith evolving in response to changing realities. Archaeology challenges us to look past the familiar passages and into the world that gave birth to them. Yet the impact goes beyond scholarship. Each discovery deepens the dialogue between faith and history. For some, artifacts confirm belief, grounding sacred stories in tangible soil. For others, they spark questions, urging us to reconsider assumptions and see the text in a new light. But for all, they enrich our sense of wonder that the world of the Bible was real, lived and shaped by the same human desires for meaning, survival, and legacy that we share today. Archaeology, then, is not only about what we dig up. It is about what those discoveries awaken in us, a recognition that the ancient world is closer than we imagine, and that its echoes continue to shape our own. As we move forward, we will explore not only the artifacts themselves, but also the methods that bring them to light, the science, the controversies, and the ethics of unearthing what has lain hidden for millennia. Because each relic is more than an object, it is a voice, and how we choose to listen will determine the story we tell. Chapter 5: The Science of the Sacred. Behind every artifact we encounter, every seal, ossuary, or inscription lies a journey from earth to understanding. Archaeology is not merely a matter of digging into the soil. It is a science, a discipline where patience, precision, and skepticism guide each discovery. To appreciate the relics of the biblical world, we must also understand the methods that bring them to light. Excavation begins not with the shovel, but with survey. Archaeologists walk the land, mapping mounds, measuring soil layers, and using technologies such as ground-penetrating radar to detect what lies beneath. Each site is approached with caution, because once the soil is disturbed, context can never be restored. Every stone, every shard, every grain of ash must be recorded in relation to its surroundings. Context, more than the object itself, often tells the truest story. From there, the work is painstaking. Layers are peeled back one by one, like pages in a book. Pottery fragments are catalogued, animal bones analyzed, plant remains studied under microscopes. Radiocarbon dating helps fix timelines. Pottery typology, comparing styles and forms across centuries, creates a chronology of daily life. Inscriptions are scanned, deciphered, and sometimes reinterpreted decades later as new linguistic insights emerge. But science is not free from controversy. With biblical archaeology, the stakes are high. A single inscription can sway debates about history and faith. This makes authenticity crucial. Forgers have exploited this hunger, creating artifacts that seem too perfect, too aligned with Scripture. The infamous James ossuary, inscribed with the words James, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus, sparked worldwide headlines. Was it real? Test revealed ancient stone but modern tampering. The debate continues, a reminder of how fragile the line is between discovery and deception. Even genuine finds provoke disputes. Scholars argue over translations, over dates, over the meaning of symbols. One camp may see proof of a biblical event, while another sees mere coincidence. The soil yields evidence, but interpretation is human, and humans bring bias, belief, and doubt. Beyond science and skepticism, there are ethical dilemmas. Who owns the past? When a relic is unearthed in contested land, does it belong to the state, to the faith community, or to humanity as a whole? When ancient remains are discovered, how should they be handled? With scientific detachment, or with reverence for the dead? These questions shadow every dig, reminding us that archaeology is not just about knowledge. It is about responsibility. And yet, despite the challenges, the science of the sacred continues to thrive. New technologies, DNA analysis of remains, 3D scanning of inscriptions, satellite imaging of buried cities are opening possibilities unimagined a generation ago. Artifacts once locked away in museums are now digitized, accessible to anyone with an internet connection. The past is becoming more transparent, even as mysteries remain. Archaeology, then, is not a finished script, but an unfolding dialogue. Each spadeful of earth, each fragment analyzed, adds to a conversation between faith, history, and science. It reminds us that the sacred is not opposed to the scientific, that the two together can illuminate truths greater than either alone. In the end, the science of the sacred is not about proving or disproving belief. It is about listening to stone, to clay, to the silent testimonies preserved in the dust. It is about honoring the past by handling it with care, integrity, and wonder. For in every artifact we hold more than history. We hold the story of humanity's search for meaning. As we move into our final chapter, we look forward to what is yet to be found, to the horizons of discovery still hidden beneath the earth, and to the legacies waiting to be unearthed. Chapter 6: A Legacy Unfolding. The story of biblical archaeology does not end with what has already been found. The earth still holds countless secrets, waiting to be uncovered by careful hands and patient eyes. Each new season of excavation brings the possibility of a discovery that may alter how we read Scripture, how we understand history, and how we see ourselves in relation to the past. Across the Middle East, archaeologists continue to work at sites brimming with potential. In Jerusalem, layers remain unexcavated beneath modern neighborhoods, each layer a page in the city's long and turbulent history. In the deserts of Jordan and the caves near the Dead Sea, scholars search for further scrolls, writings that may shed light on the beliefs and struggles of ancient communities. In Turkey and Egypt, cities mentioned in Scripture still lie partially buried, their streets and temples hinting at stories yet untold. Speculation stirs the imagination. Could new inscriptions surface naming biblical figures long debated? Might fragments of Solomon's temple one day emerge from beneath centuries of rubble? Could a new Dead Sea Scroll hidden deep in a cave reveal lost voices from the age of prophets? Archaeology does not promise such treasures, but the possibility is enough to keep curiosity alive. Yet this is not only about relics. It is about dialogue. Archaeology ensures that the Bible is never frozen in time, never reduced to a relic itself. Instead, it is part of an ongoing conversation between past and present, faith and scholarship, text and earth. Every discovery forces us to ask new questions, to refine our interpretations, and to see ancient peoples not as distant shadows, but as fellow travelers in the human. This legacy belongs not just to scholars, but to all of us. Museums across the world house artifacts that once lay hidden in silent ossuaries, inscriptions, coins, fragments of scrolls. To stand before them is to feel the weight of centuries collapse into a single moment of connection. They invite us to reach beyond ourselves, to recognize that our longing for meaning, our struggles for survival, our hopes for the future are shared across time. And there is another legacy, the ethical responsibility of preservation. The sands of time will continue to erode, wars and looting threaten sites, and climate change accelerates decay. What we choose to protect, how we choose to preserve, will determine what remains for generations to come. Archaeology is not only about finding, it is about safeguarding the fragile bridge between yesterday and tomorrow. As this journey draws to a close, we are left with a call to curiosity, to visit the sites, to walk the ancient streets, to stand in museums and listen to the echoes of stone and clay, to read Scripture with eyes open to the interplay between text and history, and above all, to embrace the wonder that comes from holding a fragment of the past and realizing that it connects directly to our present. For in the end, archaeology is more than science, more than history, more than faith. It is a testament to humanity's enduring desire to remember, to understand, and to belong. The legacy of biblical artifacts is not confined to the dust of ancient ruins. It lives on in the questions we ask, the stories we tell, and the meaning we draw from them. This legacy is still unfolding, and it invites us all to be part of it. Epilogue echoes that endure. From the first stroke of a chisel to the final sweep of a brush in the soil, the journey of biblical archaeology is one of discovery, dialogue, and wonder. We have walked through the age of kings and prophets, seen the names of rulers etched in clay, followed water tunnels carved by desperate hands, and held in imagination the fragile ossuaries of priests and prefects. Each artifact we encountered was not merely an object, but a voice and echo carried across millennia. And what do these echoes tell us? They remind us that Scripture is not a tale floating above history, but a story rooted in it. Kings like Hezekiah ruled, priests like Caiaphas presided, prefects like Pilate governed. Their worlds were built of stone and sweat, their choices shaped by politics, fear, and faith. Archaeology anchors their lives in our shared human story. Yet the relics also tell us something deeper. They speak of artisans who carved inscriptions, workers who dug tunnels, families who buried their loved ones with care. These voices are quieter, yet no less powerful. They remind us that history is not only about rulers and wars, but about ordinary people, men, women, and children, whose daily lives were woven into the grand tapestry of the biblical world. Still, much remains hidden. Beneath the soil, beneath the ruins, beneath the silence of centuries, countless stories wait to be unearthed. Archaeology is not finished. It is a living, breathing pursuit, a testament to our never-ending curiosity. Each discovery renews the dialogue between faith and history, between past and present, inviting us to look again, to listen again, to wonder again. And perhaps that is the greatest gift of these relics, that they awaken in us a sense of connection. To stand before an ancient seal or scroll is to realize that the human quest for meaning, for order, for God is as old as civilization itself. It is to recognize that the echoes of the past are not confined to stone and clay. They live within us, shaping how we see our world and ourselves. As we close this journey, let us carry these echoes with us. Let us honor the past, not as something distant and dead, but as something alive, something that continues to speak. For in every artifact, in every inscription, in every fragment of dust, we are reminded that history is not gone, it endures, waiting for us to listen. These are the echoes that endure, and they call us still. The call of the past asterisk. The spade of the archaeologist does more than pierce the soil, it pierces time. Each discovery we have explored, from the seals of kings to the ossuaries of priests, has reminded us that the world of the Bible is not confined to words on a page. It was a lived reality, written in stone, carved in clay, and buried in the dust of ages. What survives to reach us is fragile. A fragment of pottery, a chipped inscription, a weathered tunnel, these are not grand monuments, yet they carry the weight of millennia. They are bridges across time, linking us to people who dreamed, struggled, built, and believed. In holding their relics, we hold a part of them. The journey does not end here. Even now, beneath shifting sands and ancient walls, more stories wait to be told. With every dig, every scan, every deciphered text, new voices rise from the past. They may confirm what we think we know, or they may surprise us, reminding us that history is vast, complex, and alive. The call of the past is not simply to know, but to wonder. To step into museums and excavation sites not only as observers, but as participants in humanity's shared quest to remember. To read Scripture not only as faith, but as history intertwined with the lives of real men and women. To look at a fragment of clay and feel the heartbeat of a civilization. As the dust settles on our journey, one truth remains: the past is never truly buried. It lives in every discovery, in every question, in every spark of curiosity that drives us to dig deeper. And it waits for those willing to listen, to learn, and to carry its echoes into the future. The call of the past is clear. Will we answer? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.